Hi, this is Adam Eliyahu Berkowitz from Israel 365 News. I'm here with a very special guest. I'm very happy to know Rabbi Tovia Singer. I think he's a person he is not what most people think he is, and I'm hoping that this is going to be a chance for him to shed some light on this and to shed some light on a very serious issue. The reason for this interview is that there was recently a case where a family of apparently Orthodox Jews were living in French Hill, Jerusalem. Within the Orthodox community, were very connected with the community, being supported by the community. It was discovered that they were Christian missionaries were working towards converting Jews to Christianity. Rabbi Tovia Singer was very involved in that. I'd like to hear a lot about that. And we'd like to investigate this whole issue of missionizing Jews, proselytizing Jews from the evangelical Christian world. So I'd like to start off the interview actually with a question to Rabbi Tovia Singer. Rabbi Tovia, first of all, thank you so much. Second of all, do you think that there can be a positive, productive, deep connection between Jews and Christians without one trying to convert the other?
Well, from our standpoint, Jews are not interested in converting people who are not Jewish to the Jewish faith. We want people to keep the 7 Noahide laws. We encourage people to follow the very laws that a man like Job, who's the feature character in the oldest book in the Bible, who was a Ben Noach. So that's what we want. We don't seek out conversion. Now, we do not have a symmetrical relationship with the church. The church encourages evangelism in its earliest documents. Matthew chapter 10, the disciples are told to go only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And Paul in Romans 1:16 says that I'm not ashamed of the gospel. It's the power unto salvation to everyone who believes, to the Jew first, and then to the Greek. So the Christian Bible does place a priority on Jewish evangelism. Moreover, many, not all, but many evangelical Christians believe that it is the conversion of the Jew specifically, more than any other, that will trigger the second coming of Jesus, based on the very last passage of Matthew 23. So this is tricky.
I was unaware of that.
Yeah, so Matthew 23 is it's a blowtorch of a chapter. It's the Pharisees don't do well in the chapter. Let's just say it. Let's put it that way. The very last verse, verse 39, we are told, Jesus says, I will not return unless you say, blessed is he that comes in the name of the Lord. The audience, as Matthew presents it here, are Jews. So the church, and particularly dispensationalist Christians, evangelical Christians, believe that Jesus was saying one unmistakable, clear thing, and that is he cannot make a second coming unless the Jews accept the cross. So therefore, the conversion of the Jews is uniquely important to the church, because it is their conversion that will trigger the second coming of Jesus. Evangelical Christians don't believe that you only should convert Jews. They believe the world has to be converted. They understand Matthew's Great Commission at the end of chapter 28 to mean to go into all nations and preach in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and baptize as such. They understand John 3:16, that everybody should be evangelized, not just the Jews. But the Jews figure differently.
You and I, as the stubborn Jews who refuse to accept Jesus, we're the obstacle to Jesus coming back.
You in particular, more than me. I'm kidding. You are holding up the show, young man, so get with the program. That's exactly correct.
Wow, I was totally unaware of that. I thought it was...
Well, that's why I'm here, or else you'd be talking to yourself. You bring me on, so I shed light on these things, yeah.
So this guy who went undercover, and really undercover, he did enormous damage. He was being Moser Nefesh. He was, as it were, martyring himself by not expressing his Christian belief openly. In
There's no martyrdom there. He
well,
was
not
doing
martyred,
good.
but
He was getting paid well from Morning Star Ministries. He was, and
okay. So
when
let's
his
tell me about the details of this case before we jump into the theory. But you just already blown my mind. I'll tell you that. Okay, so what are the details of this particular case?
this is an evangelical Christian who married another evangelical Christian. His wife, who tragically just died of cancer not that long ago, uh, he has 5 children. She is certainly not Jewish. Amanda did claim that she was the child of Holocaust
Should we
survivors,
say their
which is,
names?
um, yeah, absolutely. It's
Okay.
all over the media, so
Well,
it's
also, I
not
mean, it's the 12. There's a reason for it. There's that
well,
it could prevent other people from being deceived. He,
whatever. I mean, it's not a secret. This is all over the news.
so his name
So
was Michael Elk.
yeah, Michael Elk. He's the son. His father. He claimed to be a Cohen, and we have his picture of his father's tombs. His father was buried in a Mennonite cemetery with a huge cross. The whole thing is a scam.
There's no way you can be
The
a
whole
Cohen if
thing,
your father was not a Cohen, and if
right?
you were
You
a
can't.
Mennonite,
Right.
you weren't a Cohen.
No, Mennonite. The whole thing is scam. His name was
So,
Elk, and he actually added the suffix or the additional part to his name to Ella Cohen in order to convey to people that he was a Cohen. His name was invented. It means the name is Elk, E-L-K, and he added the Ella Cohen on because Cohen is a classical name for a real Cohen. I'm one. That's not my last name. So he actually manipulated his name in order to convey that. Right. If his father's not Jewish, he's definitely not a Cohen. And as far now, I presume you can ask me, is his mother Jewish? So, he's claiming he's Jewish. The we are now getting evidence in on this, and all of it is pointing to that his mother's not Jewish either. I can't say that conclusively yet. I mean, everything I'm saying, I
okay,
100% is pointing in that direction because, moreover, he's producing all kinds of documents to prove he's Jewish that are completely not relevant. So it's very, very
right.
problematic.
Actually, from my understanding, um, he made Aliyah based on having smicha, rabbinic ordination. And
Right.
I spoke to the rabbi who was in charge of the organization that gave him the the rabbinic ordination, and it was kind of like a mail order organization.
That's
And
right.
it's he answered the questions, he stuttered the material. However, they didn't really check whether he was Jewish or not.
And they don't, I'm just in their look, I don't know, I mean, that's not, it's just assumed if someone's trying to be,
Right. I guess
whatever, I don't know,
I guess from
whatever.
now on they're going to have to change that. You,
Right. The point, here's the point for you viewers that's very important. And that is the documents he's producing are, every document he has produced are documents that do not prove that you're Jewish. So that's why he's producing smicha. So someone could
right.
take
I
a
also want to
smicha
point out
class online.
the
Yeah.
issue of being a Cohen is very serious. So serious that Jewish families have a tradition that when a man is buried, they put on his gravestone whether he was a Cohen or a Levi.
Oh
It's a
yeah.
very strong family tradition, and a Cohen is not allowed to marry a convert. He's not allowed to marry what?
Divorcee.
I'm sorry,
A divorcee.
a divorcee. So so the fact that his father did not have it on his gravestone is kind of significant on a big level. I also have before we jump into the other details of what happened. Um, as you said, he claimed to be a Cohen. He claimed to be a Sofer Stam, a scribe of holy.
Oh, he practiced. He actually
Oh,
did. I mean, he actually, we have a kid. This just came out not even 24 hours ago. A family who paid 4,000 shekels. What is it? It's more than $1,000 for tefillin that he wrote. They opened up the tefillin and like half of the text is not even there. So, because normally when you buy phylacteries, it's very expensive because it's very complicated to make. So, to get a premium pair of tefillin phylacteries, it's just taken over his heart. So, but it's sewn closed with a special thread that comes from an animal. So no one opens it. I mean, you're really trusting the scribe that what's in there. You can't open it. I mean, theoretically, but no one would open it. So it was open, and there was mistakes and problems, and forget about it. He
Also,
was really doing it. He was writing that stuff. Yeah.
right. Also, he was performing weddings. He,
Oh yeah.
he in well, at least in America, I know he was performing weddings, and the question is, did he perform weddings between Jews? Which, to be honest, that's no big deal because if the rabbi wasn't a rabbi, it's not a big deal. But he also performed ritual circumcisions,
Oh yeah.
which have to be performed by a Jew. It cannot be performed by a non-Jew or a woman, if I'm not mistaken. Um,
Or a
and
Jew has become a Christian, right?
or a Jew that's become a Christian.
Yeah.
Um, and he also posed to be a Jew. There's a problem that there's certain rituals that a Kohen performs, such as blessing the congregation, such as redeeming the firstborn,
But
which
right, he did a pigeon on Ben. Yeah.
so we're talking about a kind of deceit where you're stealing people's faith. And he did.
Yeah.
So there are people who think that they're performing Torah commandments, and here they find that they're not because they were deceived. Which is, I mean, on a spiritual level, that's just so deceitful and so damaging. That was, I found that to be deep, even on the level of, if you need a quorum, you need 10 Jews to pray. Um, if you're not a Jew, well, now we've only got 9, and you lied, so we said prayers that we weren't supposed to say, said the name of God, which is one of the 10 commandments. You're not supposed to say the name of God in vain. So there are huge problems with that. Going up and blessing the congregation when you're not a Cohen, it's not. It's one of the things I feel very, and also um, Jews, any Jew, he has coming to him um, a piece of land in Israel. So when a Christian poses as a Jew, he's actually setting himself up to steal property. It's setting himself up to perpetrate theft of land in Israel. These are serious issues that came out of it. In addition, after I wrote an article about this, after the article, a lot of people contacted me. As you mentioned, his wife was very ill and passed away. They were receiving a lot of support, monetary support, spiritual support, taking care of the kids, a lot of communal support. And then the community collected money for them after the mother passed away, and a lot of these people felt deceived that, like, they may have helped them out in if they weren't Jewish, but here they were tricked into supporting the family, and a
Oh
lot
yeah.
and a lot of people felt very used about on that level.
They
Uh,
had 2 Facebook pages, one for the Christians and for the
right?
evangelicals, and one for the Jews. It was a whole. This was a complete scam. The most dangerous part of it is their children were going to Jewish schools, and their children were just talking about Jesus to other children, and this is what triggered everything. That means this is a very extreme example with this
Yeah.
guy Elk.
It's
You know,
interesting you
but
mentioned that because a lot of people are under the misconception that proselytizing, missionizing is illegal in Israel. And it's not. It's absolutely legal in Israel. However,
it's
proselytizing to children
right,
is
right.
entirely illegal.
And
And
what missionaries do to circumvent that, and that's going on here, it's rampant, is they have their children evangelize other children, which is not illegal.
really,
So what? Oh, are you kidding? This is what we're dealing with constantly. So there are children in the Messianic movement, Christians, who go to playgrounds, give out little pamphlets to Jewish children, and then there's no law preventing that. They're cutting around from every angle you can imagine. So I mean, we're dealing with this. This is an ongoing problem. I mean, people should understand that this L case is very extreme, but this is not like an outlier of some just weirdo.
no,
This is an extreme case of and there are a lot of people in the country like this who have infiltrated the Jewish community to one extent or another. This is just
It's
very extreme.
interesting that I was told that one of their goals, one of their missions, was to learn how to fake it, so that they could teach other Christians how to present themselves as Jews, in order to missionize other Jews, because being a Jew is more than just knowing how to put cream cheese on your bagel. It's just the way we speak to each other, the language, there's ways we talk, there's ways we dress. I mean, even if you dress the right way, just presenting yourself a certain way, knowing how to act, like if you present yourself as an Orthodox Jew, to know not to use electricity on Shabbat, just all kinds of things. And it's so many details that to present yourself as a Jew to other Jews is apparently not so simple. So they were there to learn how to present themselves as Jews. And I saw the video of him on a evangelical television show. And I looked at him and I laughed because he looked like so many Hasidim. I know you got the hat was tilted a certain way. We have the schlepper Chassid. They're the ones who dress very nicely, but he was like the schlepper Chassid, and with the hair the certain way. But as soon as he opened his mouth and started citing Isaiah, and he was on that show, he was preaching and saying why the Jews were wrong. I'm like, there's no way this guy is Jew. He's Jewish. He's not talking like a Jew. He's not quoting the psukim like a Jew. And also he was on a Christian missionary television show, which was a dead giveaway. So this is really not just about one family. This is really there are so many evangelical organizations that are working to convert Jews.
That's right. That's
That's
correct. Look, this country is packed with fundamentalist evangelical Christians who are seeking to evangelize Jews. I'm very grateful, I should say, I don't want your viewers to think that all Christians engage in this practice. And thankfully, when we had other crises, like we had God TV that wanted to get on Hot TV in order to evangelize the Jewish population here, I'm grateful to those Christians that said enough is enough. That
I
you
was too.
can't.
There was an interesting upswelling and a reaction came
Not,
out from.
right. So I want the viewers to understand that Roman Catholics are not into this, mainline liberal Protestants are not into this, but this practice is a very, very serious problem here. These people feel like they have a license from the Christian Bible itself, from 1 Corinthians 9:20 and 21, where Paul says to the Jew, I become as a Jew that I may gain the Jews. To those who are not under the law, I become as one who's not Jewish. I may gain them. I become all things to all men, that by some means I may gain some. And they view that as a license to dress up, play the game, do the scam, dress like an Orthodox Jew in order to win Jews to the cross. Many Christians feel very uncomfortable about this, but tragically, there are so many people who are engaging in this practice that is completely deceptive.
It's that's a point you made last time. That was one of those aha moments where I said, "Wow, that's an interesting point." Which is, you pointed out the Muslims are not trying to convert us, um, and the Catholic Church is not trying to convert us anymore. Though I mean, there was the the Inquisition, a small detail, but it's amazing. And you pointed this out, and I remember you said it. I was like, "Wow." The evangelicals who are our dearest supporters of Israel. And I mean, sometimes I blush when I connect with evangelical Christians, how they praise Israel and love Israel. But at the same time, they're the only branch of religion that's actively trying to convert Jews.
That's
And
right.
that
There's no free lunch here. That's correct. That means that this is very important viewers to know, all the missionaries that are targeting Jews for conversion are Christian Zionists. for example, if you have the evangelical Lutherans, even though it's called evangelical, they're liberal. They're not interested in Jewish evangelism. The Roman Catholic Church, they don't support Israel, but they don't try to evangelize us. The people involved in Jewish evangelism is the Southern Baptist Convention, the Assemblies of God, is those denominations that are Christian Zionists that hold to a dispensationalist theology, ideas that were emerged in the 19th century. The central figure there is Ryrie. Well, not even more before Ryrie. You would say Moody, and we would say John Nelson Darby. He's the central figure in all this. A 19th century preacher from the UK that came to America. These are people who were advancing what's called premillennial dispensationalism. What is germane in that fancy name is that they believe that the church erred in its belief of replacement theology, that the Jews have been replaced by the church and the church is the new Israel. And they believe that God has two covenants, one with the church and another with the physical Jewish people, and that the Jewish people belong in the land of Israel, and the land of Israel belongs to the Jews alone, and there should be no compromise at all. These people sincerely believe this. It's not a scam for them, it's not a game for them. However, it is these very same people who believe that the conversion of the Jews is essential to bring about the second coming of Jesus. And many of them will use their support for Israel and their love for Israel to distance themselves from co-religionists in the past who have persecuted the Jewish people. It's a very serious problem.
That's interesting, even though it still feels to me like there's an inherent self-contradiction. And in that, when a Christian tries to convert me, it really feels like Jew hatred. It's like, oh, I love the Jews, I love Israel, but the thing that makes you Jewish, we got to get rid of that. It really
Right.
feels it really feels like Jew
It's a,
hatred.
it's a hatred of the Jewish religion, and it's not a physical hatred. These people do not want any harm to come to the Jews physically at all, but it is a hatred of Judaism, which they believe is a religion that is blinded, that the Jewish people have a veil over their eyes, scales over their eyes, and they believe that there's only one way for the Jews to be saved, and that is for them to abandon their rejection of Jesus and for them to join the church. Now, they'll play games with that and say, we don't want you to convert to Christianity. I want to make this very clear. No Christian is ever going to say to you that I want you to convert to Christianity. They don't, no one talks that way
Right.
anymore. So get that out of your head. Everybody uses the term become a messianic Jew, a completed Jew, a
A
fulfilled Jew.
completed Jew.
It's a word game. It is semantics. We're talking about ontologically. That's what we're discussing it. We're not talking about the word that's being used. So they'll call it the Brit Hadashah instead of call it the New Testament. But we're
Joshua
talking
or
about
Yeshua instead of
so the, so it's a game. It's a
right.
word game. Just use the right terminology. But so they don't even like to use the word Christ anymore.
Mhm.
Yeshua.
And
So
the
they
thing that strikes me as odd is when I speak to and I don't know, I think I'm kind of blind to people trying to missionize me because I mean, what? I'm really going to, accept Jesus? I mean, what? What? This is my wife would kill me. There's no way.
my wife would kill you. Let's go.
Yeah, that excuse has stopped me from doing much worse things. But the point is, there's a kind of optical illusion, which is they'll say like, oh, here's a person who's Jewish who's accepted Jesus. And there is an optical illusion there in that a Jew, there's the ethnic aspect of being a Jew, and you can never get rid of that. You're a Jew until the day you die. But there's also the religious aspect. So I could be wrong halachically according to Torah law, but I think that a Jew who accepts Jesus has transgressed a major transgression. He's gone outside of the faith. So he's still ethnically a Jew, but religiously he's outside of the faith. Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah, of course. I mean, if you worship the second person of a triune Godhead, you very much are violating the first commandments of the Ten Commandments. It's not about, you're joining a different group or you're a Met for a Yankee fan or you
Right.
join another religion. It's like, who do you worship? And do you believe that the Messiah could die for your sins? Do you believe that literally or figuratively or in the real presence, meaning the way Catholics do, the way Lutherans do in a real presence, or the way Calvinists do? Do you believe you can eat the body and drink the blood of Jesus and that will give you eternal life in any way? John chapter 6, verse 54 and 55. It's all these things. This is
So right. So
the idea is who do
when
you
they say to
worship?
me,
Yeah.
accept Jesus and become a complete Jew or fulfilled Jew or whatever the term that, I look at them and I'm like, you keep using that word. I don't think it means what you think it means. It's just, it's not. It's they
Right.
they they want me to become a complete Jew by having me become something that isn't Jewish. And that's just too strange to me.
Yeah.
I, there are a lot of contradictions in missionizing that really confuse me. Like they want to bring the Jews back to Israel, but at the same time they don't want us to be Jewish, which
But you have to be very careful because you see what happens is it's kind of a word game. So Jewish culturally is fine. And in fact, in churches, Jewish culture and Jewish liturgy and Jewish Davidic dancing is the most in thing in churches all over the world. So are we talking about cultural things or rabbinic traditions, wearing a kippah, or are we talking about the essential faith here? So what's happening is that there's a game called hide the ball. It's dealing from the bottom of the deck. Now, most Christians don't understand any of this stuff. But what's happening is they're fine if you want to hang on to Jewish culture. And not only are they fine with it, you have pastors who come out wearing a talit legitimately. It means they're not trying to play games, who come out wearing a talit in their churches. This is the biggest thing today in the evangelical world. But we're talking about faith. Like, who do you worship? What is the nature of your God? Do you believe in a homostasis? Do you believe in the Trinity? Do you believe in vicarious atonement? Do you believe in Mark 10:45? Do you believe in Matthew 20:18? I mean, it's about that. I mean, it's not about the cultural. The culture, they don't care about that. You can light Hanukkah candles all you want. Strangely, Christmas is not mentioned in the New Testament, but Hanukkah is.
I'm getting
Ha-
my I'm getting my mind blown a lot tonight.
Yeah, Hanukkah's in John chapter 10. There's no Christmas story, and
Oh,
based on what you find the infancy
but
narratives. We know what Christmas. We know it's a pagan. The Christians know that Christmas is a pagan origin. They know that Hanukkah is legit because in their own Bible. So,
so
right. That's exactly correct.
so how do I approach this? The organization that uncovered this family is called Benenu. I have a lot of respect for them. I think that they were they uncovered a huge deceit. They saved people from very serious spiritual damage as a result of this deceit. At the same time, through my job and through my inclination, I believe that there is has to be a meaningful connection between Jews and Christians, not for the resurrection of Jesus. I think it has to do with the purpose of Jews being an Or Legoyim, Mamlechet Kohanim Goy Kadosh, being a light unto the nations, a holy nation, a separate nation, and a nation of priests. I see the third temple as being in the image of the first and second temple, which were a place for all of the nations to come and serve Hashem, not necessarily to convert or not even to convert, just as a focal point for serving Hashem. So I see this connection. To be perfectly candid, I am hugely inspired by many Christians and their love for Israel. It's something I wish I saw more among American Jews, that they had this enthusiasm for Israel. And I connect with them knowing that the people I'm connecting with would like me to convert and accept Jesus, which is unacceptable to me. So I understand that I have this shortcoming. I'm going out into a place which isn't so good for me. There's not going to be any ramifications because I'm not going to convert. I'm not going to accept Jesus. The overwhelming odds are that none of my children will accept Jesus or marry non-Jews because we're in Israel, relatively religious. Um, and I want to have this connection with them. I want to watch this connection grow. There are a growing number of Christians rejecting replacement theology, but the Christians who are willing to set aside, and I think for the reasons that you very clearly laid out very nicely, the Christians who are willing to say we don't want to convert Jews, that's a theological dilemma for them, and there are very few of them.
Very few of them. There are some. There are some that hold to what's called dual covenant theology, but they're considered heretical. Um, they want to evangelize Jews. We have to be careful because they're never going to use a term like converters to Christianity. They just don't use
That
those
is
words,
true.
even though it's ridiculous.
That is my
Because you
experience.
can ask these Christians, is it even possible for a Jew to convert to Christianity? Is that possible? They would have to say, well, yes. Well, then what's the difference between that person and someone else? There's no theological difference between what a Jew in a Messianic church believes and a Jew in a Southern Baptist church from Assemblies of God church believes. This soteriology is identical. The theology is identical. Their epistemology is identical. So there's a word game going on here. The other thing is that we have to have, I think, I mean, I understand what you're saying. We have to have a relationship where no one is there to buy and sell. But the moment you get involved with people who have an agenda, who want to evangelize, so then you have an asymmetrical relationship. It comes up as a problem, I'm sure. But replacement theology is not a big deal anymore. You know, that's
I,
out in the
I
Protestant movement. That's not really big
I
anymore
will
because
say
my
that
churches
I
are
think
losing.
a lot of Christians who say they reject replacement theology don't entirely understand what that means. So they've kind of like, we'll be like, yes, I reject replacement theology, and then we'll run across something, we'll be like, whoa. But do you see that this relationship for us as Jews, strictly for our vision of Mashiach, and our vision of Mashiach does not include converting everyone to Judaism, my understanding. Okay, go with it.
You're asking me a question. So actually, in Tanakh is very clear that when Mashiach comes, everyone will. The word Judaism is not used in Tanakh, so everyone will come to believe in one faith. All the nations will speak in a pure speech. The knowledge of God will cover the world as the water covers the sea.
Shem
Isaiah
Echad U'Shmo Echad.
11:9. More, that's Zechariah chapter 14, and 10 Gentiles of different languages will grab the hem of a Jew and say, Neilcha imochem ki shamanu, Hashem imochem, let us go with you, for we've heard that God is with you. So at the end of days, the most important event that will occur is the oneness, the universal knowledge of God, and there will only be one religion of the world, and everyone will worship the God of Abraham,
Really?
Isaac, and Jacob. That's the most. That's no one will have to teach his neighbor or friend about God, for they shall all know me from the least to the greatest, Jeremiah 31. It's a universal knowledge of God. There will no longer be multiple religions in the Messianic age.
I'm going to have to work at that one.
Just talking Tanakh.
Yeah, I understand. On a yeshivish level, I'll tell you, yeah, I understand that's the pshat.
Yeah,
And
that's it.
as a religious Jew, there are certain things that I still struggle with, and that is one of them.
I just wanted to provide, what
Right, and
Tanakh says. I mean,
at
everyone worship. By the way, Christians believe this is what I've just said is the least controversial thing that came out of my mouth during our conversation. That means what I have just said, all Christians agree on, and that is that there will be a oneness in worship of the true God in the end times. That's what the eschatology points to. It means that's more important than anything, is that
Which
everyone will worship the true God in the same way with a pure speech. Zephaniah chapter 3, verse 9. Believe me, this is really everywhere. The key is that the redemption of the world, not just the Jews as in the Exodus, not just 70 souls as in Haran with Abraham, but the world. Okay?
which is funny because it seems like a contradiction with what we said in the beginning, which was
It
that
is, but
Judaism
part
does
of it
not,
is,
not
yeah,
only
but
does
part of it
Judaism
is.
not proselytize, on some levels it's forbidden.
All right, so I'm going to do this. We'll bring this to a circle this way. This is a little complicated, and I'll just unpack this very, very quickly. Judaism is essentially the religion in the world that is two things. We're an ethno-religious group. There's almost
Right,
nothing like it in the world.
right.
Okay, so that's why nothing fits. So when we talk about not converting anyone, what does that mean? So there are two parts to embracing Judaism. You can join the faith of Israel, and then you don't have to convert to Judaism, meaning you don't have to join the nation, and then you've joined millions of people who are called Noachais, who embrace the Jewish faith but do not join the Jewish nation and don't have to keep all the mitzvot that a Jew would. There are, on the other hand, people, millions of them worldwide, who decided they want to become a part of the nation of Israel. So that, in addition to embracing the faith of Israel, that means that they are fully joining us not only in our glorious history, but our marvelous destiny. So that is the part that we don't seek out. So be very careful of this, because Christianity and Islam do not have, means Christianity is not a nation. Islam is not a nation. So Judaism is two things. When we're using words, but these words are very, very dense, and they have to be unpacked so that we're actually conveying the exact same thing. And there's the message.
Right. One of my problems with replacement theology is when Christians say, "Oh, we are the other branch," or they somehow try to like say, "Oh, we're actually the nation, part of the nation." I'm like, no, you're really
Yeah,
not.
well, they're so variant. There's Ephraimites, the British who
Right.
think that they're the true. That's all. They're all over the place.
Right.
You know,
If they understood, I mean, I can point to a whole branch of my family that disappeared in Europe just because they knew that their family tree included Jews. And if you can't do that, then get out of my face. It's just no, it's not gonna fly. That gets me
yeah,
very angry.
yeah.
So actually, Reb Tovia, I'd like to end it here, not because there's nothing left to talk about, but because there's so much that we really need to talk about.
Yeah, let's
Um,
do that. Let's continue. The name of our organization is Outreach Judaism. My website is outreachjudaism.org. And I have a really large YouTube channel, just
yeah,
my name, Tovia Singer. And I thank you very, very much
I
for
really can't thank you enough, Reb
having me
Tovia.
on.
Every time I speak with you, I learn so much, and I want to emphasize that if anyone claims that we are two Jews talking about how much we hate Christians, then boy, did you miss the message here.
Yeah,
This was really a message of we there's a lot of love here, but we have to set ground rules, and there are certain things that are not okay,
right.
especially amongst friends. And that's, I think,
Hey,
what this was all about. And if we achieve that, then Rav Tovia, we're bringing Gula one step closer. Thank you so much,
amen.
and be blessed.